What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video where today we're going to talk a little bit about our GM, Chris Ballard. There's been so much conversation about him. We've had videos on him before, and of course, as time goes on, things change, right? You hope to see different things from Chris Ballard. I'd hope to see some different things from Chris Ballard, and I just felt like it needed to be discussed with so much conversation going on about him. So here's my 2 cents on the whole thing. And the first place that I want to start is going to be his win-loss record since being here, right? You look at how the Colts have done, 54, 60, and 1. Now, this is where I've always been with Chris Ballard up to this point, right? Is that I think Andrew Luck's retirement obviously has some massive impact, right? Chris Ballard comes in 2017. Andrew Luck doesn't play. We go 4-12. Andrew Luck ends up coming back the next season. We go 10-6, right? Good year. End up going to the playoffs. Lost in the divisional round. And then Andrew Luck retires right before 2019 season gets started. We have to roll with Jacoby Brissett. He gets hurt. Can't remember if he missed some games, but we end up 7-9 in 2019. And then in 2020, that was the best year the Colts have had under Chris Ballard. Went 11-5 with Phillip Rivers under the helm, and we lost in the wild card round against the Bills that season. But nonetheless, 11-5 did make the playoffs. This is the last time we made the playoffs in 2020. Since then, we have the Carson Wentz year where we went 9-8 and lost in Jacksonville the last game of the year to end up missing the playoffs. Then 2022, the Matt Ryan season, which was absolutely terrible to sit through as a Colts fan. They go 4-12-1. And then, of course, last year with Anthony Richardson a little bit, mostly Gardner Minshew, we go 9-8. So overall, again, that's 54, 60, and 1 because of the retirement of Andrew Luck. It's been hard to make things happen, right? Trying to stay competitive. That's where Chris Ballard and his staff always are. They're trying to remain competitive. And so they went and got veteran quarterbacks that they thought could fill a spot and help this team win. And for that fact, like I've always given Ballard the benefit of the doubt. Like I understand what he's trying to do, trying to continue to win instead of trying to rebuild right now. Like if you look at the way you draft, and that moves us into all of his drafts, okay? And we're going to go through, there's a lot since 2017, so we're going to go through this fairly quickly, but just looking, pardon the interruption, I just want to let you guys know how much I appreciate you stopping by the channel. And I also want to say that when I look at the analytics, 50% of the people that come by and watch this channel are not subscribed. So as Peyton's telling you to do here, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn those notifications on so you get notified when any videos come out. Now, if you need any further proof of why you need to subscribe, when you look at the numbers, 62.4% of the views on this channel over the last month have come from people that are not subscribed to the channel. So again, if you're one of those people, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you so much. And let's get back into the video. Who he's drafted over time. Malik Hooker, then a couple of dud picks, but then you get Marlon Mack, who was really good until his Achilles tear. Grover Stewart, who's just done nothing but get better in his career. Anthony Walker, who's had a really good career. Then you move to 2018. So we get Quentin Nelson, longtime starter, possible Hall of Famer. Darius Leonard, who without his injuries, probably ends up a Hall of Famer one day. Then you have Braden Smith, longtime starter at right tackle. Kamoko Toure, who probably would have been really good had it not been for injuries early on in his career. Tyquan Lewis, who's had injuries but remains good. Nyheim Hines, who's had a good career. Jordan Wilkins, who had a couple of good seasons with us. Darius Fountain, Deion Kane, a couple of guys that have bounced around the league to other teams and in the XFL/UFL. And of course, Zaire Franklin, 7th round pick. Wasn't even supposed to get picked, but the Colts end up making a trade, getting back in toward the end of the 7th round. They pick up Zaire Franklin, who's obviously become a star on our defense, one of the best linebackers in the NFL, one of the best players. He's ranked the 100th best player in the NFL this season. So grabbing him in the 7th round, like Chris Ballard doing great in drafts. Then you look The next year, 2019, Rock Ya-Sin, Ben Benigu, who was a bit of a flop. Then Paris Campbell, who just couldn't stay healthy. Bobby Okereke, who is a star in the NFL. Kari Willis, who was good but retired early. EJ Speed, who's been really good for us. Great starter at linebacker. And that's one thing Chris Ballard and his staff is really good at, drafting linebackers. They are incredible. Okay, then the rest of these picks, who cares? 2020, Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor, Julian Blackman, three guys that are massive parts of the team. Very important starters for us coming out of this 2020 draft. Okay, then Danny Pinner, Isaiah Rodgers, who should be a starter for us. That's the situation. Extremely unfortunate with what our cornerback room looks like right now. But really good picks in that 2020 draft. Then you look here at 2021. Go through, you have Kwity Paye, who hasn't been a star, but has been solid. And then you go forward, boom, Dio Dangbo, who we hope continues to develop and continues to find ways to be more dominant. Kylan Granson, who's been, basically a starter for us for a few years and has had a role. Sean Davis, who just never was able to develop into what I was hoping he was going to be able to. Sam Ellinger, who is about your prototypical, third string quarterback. Mike Strawn, who never really could develop, but then Will Fries, who was really good for us last year, and hoping that we're going to get the same success this year out of him. 2022 draft class. And in this one, we get Alec Pierce, Jelani Woods, whose situation very unfortunate, but we get Bernie in this draft. Looks like he's going to be our long-term left tackle. Nick Cross, who, hopefully we'll see the development this year. He's still only 22 years old. Hopefully we can see some development take place. Eric Johnson, who looked like he was developing, but unfortunately got picked up by the Patriots after being waived. Andrew Ogletree, who's, solid but not great. Good run blocker. And then Curtis Brooks from Cincinnati, who didn't last long on the team. But Rodney Thomas, another 7th-round pick, ended up being a starter for the Colts. Obviously lost his position since then to Nick Cross. But we'll see what happens there. See if he finds a way to continue to develop, right? Just inconsistencies on his end. Can he fix it in his career? Then moving forward, we're almost done. This is last year. Look at the impactful guys, the guys that we drafted last year that we need to make an impact for us. Anthony Richardson, Juju Brents, Josh Downs. Okay, Blake Freeland looks like possibly a waste of a pick. Tommy Ade, his development looks good. Darius Rush, pretty much sure he hasn't been on an NFL team since getting dropped from the Chiefs last offseason or last year in training camp. Daniel Scott, unfortunate that he's had injuries back-to-back years, but Will Mallory, Evan Hull, two guys that could be impactful for us in the future. Will Mallory could have a really good year. Evan Hull, we'll see what happens with him. We have JT, so he's kind of capped on what he's going to do. Titus Leo, no impact with us. Jalen Jones is a starter, and Jake Witt already retired. And then, of course, this year, the guys that we're going to expect to do stuff for us, of course, we have Latu, A.D. Mitchell, Gonsalves and Bordellini are future guys. Anthony Gould's going to have a role with us this year. Jalen Carlisle is going to have a role with us this year. Jalen Simpson on the practice squad. Jonah Lalu got picked up somewhere else. And Mike Abraham currently not on the team. So looking at the drafts from Chris Ballard, that's just what I wanted to go through to prove. Chris Ballard drafts really well, okay? And that's the part of this conversation, okay? He drafts really well. And listen, there's a part of me that's like, I want him to go into free agency and get some guys. And then there's a part of me that's like, well, do I want him to turn into Ryan Grigson, right? And that's when I start thinking that that's what scares me is I don't want to just go out, sign a bunch of guys, and for the team to get worse, you got to bring in the right guys. It has to be the right time. I feel like there is a delicate balance to it. But again, a delicate balance. There really hasn't been any balance for the Colts. They re-sign their own guys, and a lot of the guys that they re-sign, it's good that they're re-signing, and we need those guys, right? A lot of the guys making major money on the team are guys that we need to have making major money on the team. So, it's, again, delicate balance, but here's where I'm at with Chris Ballard. Okay, that laid out everything I wanted to lay out: the record, the draft picks, You guys love the Colts the way I do, man. You know the history, and when you look at it, because we were trying to get quarterbacks, I gave him leeway. We got the quarterback. We got Anthony Richardson. We currently have money to spend. I talked about, just in case you weren't around for past Chris Ballard conversations, I had talked about in the past how now that Chris Ballard finally found his quarterback of the future, it's time. Okay, it's time to start to change. You have a reason to go out and be aggressive. What could be a star quarterback on a rookie contract? You got to go and try to win right now. And that's the part that I'm stuck on, is because what are you doing? At what point are you going to change your approach and change your flow? Once Anthony Richardson signs his contract, there's a chance it gets worse. Like, I understand wanting to draft and develop. That's why he has so many draft picks. But when you draft so good, you can't pay everybody, especially when Anthony Richardson gets his next contract, assuming he is what we think he's going to be. And so when you look at it, you need to try to win right now, because you draft too good to pay every draft pick you get. You can't pay everybody. So when you have to start letting a bunch of talent go that you drafted, like, then you're bringing in rookies that need to develop to become stars, and then if they'll go and get paid, whether it's you or somebody else, like, it becomes a cycle of a problem. Like, being a great drafter is seems to be biting him in the ass, and I just can't get over how he has the money to spend. We have obvious holes. There are good free agents out there. Like, why wouldn't you try everything you can, spend all the cap money? And you don't even have, you keep a little bit. You could keep $8 to $10 million. You could still go out, sign some of these veterans waiting to be on a team. And even if you have to pay a little bit of a premium for them, as opposed to what they'll get somewhere else, because maybe they don't want to come to Indiana, they don't want to be in Indiana playing football for the Colts, whatever the case may be. Like, if you have to overpay a little bit to get talent to try to win a Super Bowl while your quarterback is on his rookie deal, like, I just think that's what I was waiting for, was to see him change, and he's not changing. So it's extremely disappointing, and I think when you talk about the truth about Chris Ballard, it's that he's extremely loyal, loyal to a fault. He's admitted that. He knows he's loyal to a fault, but it's that self-awareness that has made me think over time, okay, eventually he's going to do it. He's going to figure it out. He's going to change his approach. He's going to go try to get somebody to make us better right now. Stop being so loyal to guys. Like, you go and get a guy that you're only going to be able to lose this year, so you're losing a guy that you could develop and have for the next couple. I get it, but take that chance to try to win a Super Bowl. Dude, we haven't made the playoffs since 2020. We're at a point where Chris Ballard, it's like he drafts so well, it's hard to put him on the hot seat, but you need results at some point, right? You can't continue to draft all this talent and not have success. And I think, again, when you go back to delicate balance, you talk about a delicate balance. There's a delicate balance to having youth and to having veterans. And I think not only is that for the team as a whole, having veterans, which we do, but a lot of our veterans are on the offensive and defensive line, right? When you look at some of the key positions, right, wide receivers, you think about the tight end room outside of Mo Cox, very young. You think about, the secondary as a whole, very young. You need, I believe every room, right? Quarterback, running back, cornerback, linebacker, safeties, whatever it is, you need at least one solid veteran in every room, right? So, and I think that's where we're failing right now. We're not bringing in guys that can be good veterans. If you have to let go of a young guy, in order to do that, I think that's what you do, right? You create more competition that way. You create more depth that way, better depth. And so Again, the truth about Ballard, that's what's on the thumbnail. And that's what this video is about, is that the truth about Ballard is that he's somebody who he's stuck in his ways. And he said it in his presser, just what, a week ago, whatever that was, a few days ago, when he was talking and had his press conference. He talked about how he knows that he's stubborn in his ways and that he believes what he believes, and if it gets him fired, then so be it. And it's tough because I've always liked Chris Ballard, and I believe this team can be really good. Okay, but the fear, obviously, as Colts fans coming off of last season, especially, and you could even throw 2022 in there, like, injuries have been a major part of telling the story of the last couple of years for this football team. So, that's what I start to think of is, what do we have at depth, right? If you could go get better getting veterans, create better depth with some of the young guys that you have, rather than who we currently have on the roster. So, overall, again, I wanted to see Chris Ballard change his ways. That's what I've been looking for now that we got Anthony Richardson. We saw him enough to know that as long as he stays on the field and continues to work to get better, which he's clearly going to be doing, he's going to be incredible. I think building the team around him is going to be extremely important while he's on his rookie deal. Now, I do think drafting Latu is pro ready. Latu's as pro ready as anybody that's been drafted over the last couple of years. And I think he's going to have a major impact. What he brings to the football team is something of a veteran. And what he can do on the field, right? He's going to have to learn the NFL game. There's going to be some rough patches for Latu, right? Teams are going to get tape on him and start to figure it out, but he works to get better every day. I don't have any fear that he's not going to be great. And I think he's going to be an immediate impact for us. I love drafting A.D. Mitchell. I think he can have an immediate impact for us. So what our draft picks are coming in, I think, are going to be very impactful. But again, we have cap space. We need guys. I know somebody commented yesterday, it's not that I'm frustrated with anything. It's starting just to get a little bit annoyed, right? Like, it's going back, especially as a Colts fan. We got to watch Peyton, and that was great, and we won a lot of games, but we only won one Super Bowl because we had to watch Tom Brady and the Patriots win 6 championships. Now we're in an era where the Chiefs look like they're going to win a bunch of Super Bowls. Yeah, well, what are we going to do to make sure we can try to beat? Now, we always beat the Chiefs. It doesn't really matter the situation. We could be getting smoked in the playoffs. Somehow we're going to find a way to win the game. Colts against the Chiefs, Colts usually have the upper hand for some reason. But nonetheless, when it comes down to it, how can we be the best team in the NFL? We have some cap space. There's some really good free agents. I just think Chris Ballard's not doing his job to the best of his ability. It's just my thoughts on it. I'd also like to know, what does Shane tell him? What does Gus tell him? What are their conversations like? Is Shane saying, hey, we could really use players at this position? We could use players at this position. And what are those conversations like? I'd really be interested to know, what Shane thinks about the whole thing. Of course, publicly, he would never say, so we'll never really know. But it just feels like Shane, with as smart as he is, and as long as Gus has been around football, like, they know what deficiencies they have. We have cap space, so internally, why are things not being figured out? That's where I'm at with things. I just want to be able to make sure we compete with the Chiefs. If Anthony Richardson comes out and is everything we think he can be this year, then, hey, maybe we can compete this year. It's just, I'm ready to be at a point as a Colts fan where we're competing not just to make the playoffs, but for a Super Bowl. It's been too long since we were at that spot. Okay, I don't want us to be a laughing stock in the NFL. I don't want us to be an afterthought in the NFL. Right? Like, in my life, I was born in 1993. So those first few years as growing up wasn't really like diehard football because I was just a kid. So my entire diehard football life, it was Peyton Manning and the Colts dominating, right? But only winning one Super Bowl. And then Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck was great, but never had enough help around him to really be able to do anything. So going through the Andrew Luck era and then everything that we've been through since Andrew Luck retired, now we have a guy. I'm ready to get back to winning. I'm ready to get back to competing. Like, for the people to say, yeah, the Colts are definitely going to make the playoffs, but can they compete for a Super Bowl? That should be the conversation, right? We should always be in the conversation. Yeah, they're going to make the playoffs. Are they going to win the Super Bowl? That's where I want to be. That's why I'm talking about this stuff. That's why I'm putting out the videos about free agents that I think we could go get to make us better immediately. You make the bottom of the roster better, the whole thing comes up, right? So that's where I'm at with this, okay? And again, I like Chris Ballard as a person, like Chris Ballard a lot. As a GM, the fuse is running out. We got to start winning. We got to start winning, man. We got to get into the playoffs. We got to win a playoff game. It can't be the same old thing. We got to start winning at a consistent rate under Chris Ballard and the way he's building this team, right? If the young guys are great, then hey, it works. But we got to see him stay on the field, and it's got to happen. We got to win. We got to win. Okay, it's been too long. So you let me know your thoughts, of course, if you haven't already, through this video. And sorry, this is a little bit of a longer one. But of course, I want to know what your thoughts are on this whole situation, on everything that I said, on my opinion. What do you think about it? What's your opinion on Chris Ballard and how he is as a GM? I know a lot of you are very vocal about Chris Ballard in the comments a lot of times anyways, but please let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Of course, make sure you subscribe with notifications on so you continue to get notified when we have any more content coming out on this channel. Of course, appreciate you stopping by for another video. As always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.